on the fact whether or not, firstly, we should be doing any more oil and gas drilling, whether or not you think that this Greenpeace challenge potentially will be successful or not.
So on should we be doing any new oil and gas? No. I think it's bad for the... I know it's bad for the environment. I'm sorry, I do. It's bad for the environment. I think we as a country are wasting the opportunity that we could by really not seizing the green jobs agenda. Greenpeace are using a judicial review. So, you know, as we all know, campaigning groups use judicial review all the time to try and stop what governments are doing. I think the opportunity for this country is in clean power, in wind and solar. I do respect those also who don't agree with the net zero agenda. I do believe that if you talk about the end of the world and the planet, you also have to think about people struggling for the end of the month. But I think I'm glad that Labour will not explore new oil and gas reserves, and they're going to invest massively in green technology and jobs, which could bring new life to industrial heartlands, I think.
And would you feel confident that we can exist solely, exclusively on renewables?
I'm not sure about solely and exclusively, but that has to be the aim. But as we all know, the sun doesn't... well, don't we know it this year? The sun doesn't shine all the time.
And the wind doesn't blow.
The wind doesn't blow all the time. But there are ways, over time to work around
Over time, absolutely. But is this a time, right now, to be banning licences which would relieve significantly the burden on the consumer? Is this a good time to be...
It's a very fair question.
Blocking those licences?
The answer is, of course, that I don't believe, and there's a lot of evidence in this debate, that the time it takes for these new licences from exploration to become accessible power is 28 years. And I also don't think it's going to lead to any reduction in the money that the consumer pays. So that's why I'm not persuaded by that point.
But if you'd made that argument 28 years ago, and you prevailed in that argument, we would have the kind of problems we have now. It's because we haven't had joined-up thinking. A stitch in time is...
saves 9.
Saves 9, exactly. And, we're not taking the steps. What we're doing is hamstringing the country into a political commitment and then hoping the technology follows. And the cost by the Treasury, talking about the cost of it, by the Treasury's own estimate, that's going to be 1.4 trillion. And we know the Treasury typically underestimates the cost of these things. So we're talking about a massive cost for the UK to deliver a political agenda for which the science is not settled. And gas, by the way, was about to be made a clean fuel by the EU, and no doubt we would have followed suit. Gas is not that polluting. Coal, yes, perhaps. Oil, yes, perhaps. Gas isn't. And we've got an abundance of gas, and I think it is economic harakiri, short-sightedness, not to be taking advantage of. At the moment, what we've got is importing LNG at vast cost from the US because we're not tapping our own gas fields. It's lunacy.